Good afternoon. You're listening to Ken Hudnall. This is the Ken Hudnall Show. Coming to you from our studios right here in exciting El Paso, Texas. Gateway to the Old West and the most haunted city in the country. Well, today is March the 14th, 73rd day of the year. 292 days remain to the year's over with. And the requested holidays and observances: National Write Your Story Day, Dog Theft Awareness Day. You know, there's an undermarket of stolen dogs. White Day. That's a day when a just and return blooms. National Children's Craft Day. It's also World Sleep Day. National Pi Day, 3.1415. That's a day when not only math enthusiasts celebrate this number, but there was a restaurant I used to go to, and I'd ask them for pi for 3.14, and more often than not, they'd do it. And then it's also Dita Iveris, or Summer Day. That's a celebration that marks the end of winter and welcoming the warmer days that you find in Albania. And a National Day of Mathematics. National Learn About Butterflies Day. National Potato Chip Day. Oh, I used to love Lay's potato chips. Science Education Day. International Grant Professionals Day. It takes somebody who understands the system to navigate the funding landscapes. And it's March Full Moon. And a National Ask a Question Day. National Freelancers Day. Solar Appreciation Day. A National Day of Action for Rivers. Professional Speakers Celebration Day. Legal Assistance Day. Crowdfunding Day. Mother Day, or Mother Day. Appreciate the fascinating, often misunderstood creatures that come out at night. And I'm not talking about vampires. Save a Spider Day. National Preschoolers Day. Bake a Pie and Solidarity Day. Dribble to Work Day. Holi. That's Holi. It's a Hindu festival of colors. It announces the arrival of spring with joy and gratitude. It's an ancient Hindu festival. Extends across the borders, unifying the entire Hindu diaspora across national identities. World Glaucoma Day. National Science and Engineering Week. And I said World Glaucoma Day. It's also World Glaucoma Week. National Button Week. National Bubblegum Week. Campfire USA Birthday Week. Flower and Patio Show. World's largest rattlesnake roundup. I went to a couple of those. It was not something I care to do again. Girl Scout Week, Big Man Chocolate, National Green Week, National Aardvark Week, English Tourism Week, British Science Week, and of course Ramadan. It's the Muslim holy month, where Muslims fast from sunrise to sunset. It goes from February 27th to March 28th. Universal Women's Week, Healthcare HR Week, Catholic Sisters Week, Patient Safety Awareness Week, Brain Awareness Week, Sleep Awareness Week, National Groundwater Awareness Week, and Pulmonary Rehabilitation Week. Famous people born on this date: Albert Einstein, the man himself, Stephen Curry, Quincy Jones, Anthony Porowski. March 14th is also part of National Colon Cancer Awareness Month. National Athletic Training Month, Veggie Month, Developmental Disability Awareness Month, National Reading Month, National Women's History Month, Greek American Heritage Month, Red Cross Month, National Sauce Month, National Nutrition Month, National Cerebral Palsy Awareness Month, National Flower Month. I'm talking about the white stuff, not the growing stuff. National Noodle Month, National Brain Injury Awareness Month, National March into Literacy Month, National Celery Month, International Birth Month, the Great Daffodil Appeal, a symbol of hope, found in Britain, Poison Prevention Awareness Month, National Crocheting Month, Color Therapy Month, Workplace Eye Wellness Month, Adopt a Rescue Guinea Pig Month, Youth Art Month, Sing with Your Child Month, Read an eBook Month, National Ethics Awareness Month, Malignant Hypothermia Awareness and Training Month, Exotic Winter Fruit and Leeks and Green Onions Month, Gender Equality Month, Academy Awards Month, Berries and Cherries Month, Honor Society Awareness Month, National Play-Doh Recorder Month, National Social Work Month, National Small Press Month, National Hemophilia Awareness Month, National Peanut Month, National Credit Education Month, National Caffeine Awareness Month, Frozen Food Month, National Umbrella Month, March for Water, Supply Management Month, Spiritual Wellness Month, Expanding Girls' Horizons in Science and Engineering Month, National Optimism Month, Middle Level Education Month, Gardening, Nature, and Ecology Books Month, Listening Awareness Month, Sensual Tremor Awareness Month, Deep Vein Thrombosis Awareness Month, that's DVT, don't you know? Mad for Plaid Month, Colic Awareness Month, National Bed Month, Trisomy Awareness Month, Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Month, International Ideas Month, National Breast Implant Awareness Month, Employee Spirit Month, Alport Syndrome Awareness Month, Save Your Vision Month, International Brain Tumor Awareness Month, Epilepsy Awareness Month, Endometriosis Awareness Month, National Kidney Month, National Craft Month, National Music in Our Schools Month, and Irish American History Month. Well, all that having been said, let's see what happened on March 14th. 1074 AD, the Battle of Mogorod, Dukes Giza and Ladislaus defeat their cousin Solomon, king of Hungary, forcing him to flee to Hungary's western borderland. 1590, Battle of Ivry. Henry of Navarre and the Huguenots defeat the forces of the Catholic League under Charles, Duke of Mayenne, during the French Wars of Religion. Now that's something to have a war about. 1647, 30 Years' War. Bavaria, Cologne, France, and Sweden signed the Truce of Ulm. 1663, according to his own account, Otto von Guericke completes his book, Experimenta Nova, Magdeburgia di Vacuo Spatio, detailing his experiments on vacuum and his discovery of electrostatic repulsion. 1674, the Third Anglo-Dutch War. Battle of Ronesvo results in the Dutch East India Company ship Wapen van Rotterdam being captured with a death toll of up to 300 Dutch crew and soldiers. 1757, Admiral Sir John Byng is executed by firing squad aboard HMS Monarch for breach of the Articles of War. 1780, American Revolutionary War. Spanish forces captured Fort Charlotte in Mobile, Alabama. That was the last British frontier post capable of threatening New Orleans. 1794, Eli Whitney is granted a patent for the cotton gin. 1864, Rossini's Petite Miss Solennelle is first performed by 12 singers, 2 pianists, and a harmonium player in a mansion in Paris. 1885, The Mikado, a light opera by Gilbert and Sullivan, receives its first public performance at the Savoy Theatre in London. 1900, the Gold Standard Act is ratified, putting the U.S. currency on the gold standard. We have since been taken off, and inflation has run wild. 1901, Utah Governor Abram Manning Wells vetoes a bill that would have eased restriction on polygamy. 1903, Pelican Island National Wildlife Refuge, the first national wildlife refuge in the U.S., is established by President Theodore Roosevelt. 1920, the second of the 1920s Western plebiscites, about 80% of the population in Zone 2 votes to remain part of Weimar Germany. 1921, 6 members of a group of the Irish Republican Army activists known as the Forgotten Ten are hung in Dublin's Mountjoy prison. 1923, Charles Daly and 3 other members of the Irish Republican Army are executed by the Irish Free State Forces. 1926, the Avrilla train accident in Costa Rica kills 248 people and wounds another 93 when a train falls off a bridge over the Rio Varilla between Heredia and Tabas. 1931, La Mara, India's first talking film, is released on this date. 1939, Slovakia declares independence under German pressure. 1942, Ann Miller becomes the first American patient to be treated with penicillin under the care of Orvin Hessen, John Bumstead. 1943, the Holocaust, the liquidation of the Krakow ghetto, is completed. On this day in 1945, the RAF drops the Grand Slam bomb in action for the first time on a railway viaduct near Bielefeld in Germany. For those that are not familiar with the Grand Slam bomb, it was a 22,000-pound earthquake bomb used by the RAF Bomber Command against German targets toward the end of the Second World War. Originally, it was called the Tall Boy, under the Tall Boy Large, under the term Tall Boy, until the term Tall Boy got into the press and the code name was replaced by Grand Slam. This bomb is similar to a large version of the Tall Boy bomb, but a new design and closer to the size that its inventor, Barnes Wallis, had envisioned when he developed the idea of an earthquake bomb. It was the largest and most powerful conventional aerial bomb used by either side during the war. 1951, Korean War. United Nations troops recapture Seoul for the second time. 1961, United States Air Force B-52 bomber carrying nuclear weapons crashes near Yuba City, California. 1964, Jack Ruby is convicted of killing Lee Harvey Oswald, the assassin that shot and killed John F. Kennedy the previous year, who allegedly had shot and killed President John F. Kennedy. He was never charged. He was never convicted because Ruby shot him earlier. 1967, the body of U.S. President John F. Kennedy is moved to a permanent burial place at Arlington National Cemetery. 1972, Sterling Airways Flight 296 crashes near Kalba, United Arab Emirates, while on approach to Dubai International Airport. Killed 112 people. 1978, Israel Defense Force launches Operation Litani, a 7-day campaign to invade and occupy southern Lebanon. On this day in 1979, Aliyah Royal Jordanian Flight 600 crashes at Doha International Airport, killed 45 people. 1980, LOT Polish Airlines Flight 007 crashes during final approach near Warsaw, Poland. Killed 87 people, including a 14-man American boxing team. 1982, the South African government bombs the headquarters of the African National Congress in London. 1988, in the Johnson South Reef skirmish, Chinese forces defeat Vietnamese forces in an altercation over control of one of the Spratly Islands. 1995, Norman Thagard becomes the first American astronaut to ride to space on board a Russian launch vehicle. 2006, the 2006 Chadian coup d'etat attempt ends in failure. Also in 2006, Operation Bringing Home the Goods. Israeli troops raid an American-supervised Palestinian prison in Jericho to capture 6 Palestinian prisoners, including PFLP chief Ahmad Saadat. 2007, the Nandagram violence in Nandagram, West Bengal results in the death of at least 14 people. 2008, a series of riots, protests, and demonstrations erupted in Lhasa and subsequently spread elsewhere in Tibet. 2017, a naming ceremony for the chemical element nihonium takes place in Tokyo, with then Crown Prince Naruhito in attendance. 2019, Cyclone Idai makes landfall near Bahia, Mozambique, causing devastating floods and over 1,000 deaths. And in 2021, Burmese security forces killed at least 65 civilians in the Alang Thea massacre. And this particular massacre took place in Alang Thea township in Yangon in Myanmar. During the massacre, Myanmar army troops and Myanmar police force officers killed at least 65 individuals. It became one of the deadliest domestic incidents to occur in the aftermath of the 2021 Myanmar coup d'etat. It marked a serious escalation in the military violence against civilians resisting the coup. This crackdown also precipitated a mass exodus of factory workers, residents, and businesses from Langthaya, a major factory hub in that particular country. Well, that took care of our history segment. Let's see what we got in the news. A key witness to the disappearance of a University of Pittsburgh student, Sudiska Konaki, came forward, told police how they met and what happened on the beach. According to this witness, she was last seen swimming in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, about 4 in the morning on March 6th. Then he said they were swimming together and a big wave hit them and they were swept away. Pelosi's urged senators to oppose a key spending bill, which risks a government shutdown. Schumer has said he will not oppose it. But Nancy Pelosi and several key Democrats are urging Senate Democrats to risk a government shutdown by opposing the mass spending bill. Instead, Pelosi, represents San Francisco, as a leading Democrat in the House, is urging senators to back a shorter-term funding extension to allow more time for negotiation. Dancing transgender hecklers have shut down a parents' event in Vermont. Several provocatively dressed dancing transgender activists broke into an informational parents' meeting at the Vermont State House Wednesday, disrupted the event, and forced the parents to seek another space for their event. The Vermont State House Sergeant of Arms refused to remove the activists, claiming they had a right to be there. When you're different, the laws don't apply to you anymore. White House press secretaries hinted at the biggest Ukraine-Russia breakthrough yet in peace negotiations. According to Doge, they've cut around $115 billion of waste, which is about $700 per taxpayer. Actually $714.29 per taxpayer. There were 163.1 million individual income tax returns in the latest tax return year of 2023, according to the IRS. Doge says the biggest savings would come from the GSA, followed by the Education Department, the Environmental Protective Agency. You know, we fund some of the silliest things anybody'd ever want to hear. An arrest had been made in Austin, Texas, after a 17-vehicle crash left 3 adults and 2 kids dead. NTSB has opened a safety investigation into the wreck. Solomon Araya, 37, is now facing 5 counts of intoxication, manslaughter, and 2 counts of intoxication assault following this massive pileup. Several people apparently were pinned in their vehicles following the wreck. Involved a semi-truck and also left 12 people injured. Araya was driving the semi-truck. Wendy Williams is asking medical guardian to get off her neck as she insists she's not mentally incapacitated. She's been diagnosed with progressive aphasia and frontotemporal dementia since 2023. She's been in a court-appointed guardianship since 2022. And she's made the decision to undergo a competency test this week. North Carolina GOP town hall turns heated as a self-described veteran is escorted out by security. Man jumped up, identified himself as a veteran, and started shouting, give an F about me before he was escorted out by police. Clearly, he's not a happy camper. Tulsi Gabbard is cracked down on unauthorized leaks from the intelligence community. She said politically motivated leaks will not be will not be accepted, I guess is it. Diddy has pleaded not guilty to new allegations in the sex trafficking case. New reports from the Gene Hackman death. The dog likely died of dehydration and starvation, and it showed partial mummification. They had 3 dogs, one of which was found dead. And they think that she died, Errol Conway's wife, a week to 10 days before he did. And since he had dementia, he died of dehydration and starvation. Feds accused of destroying Epstein evidence. Representative Anna Paulina Luna, Republican of Florida, wants federal agents caught destroying or concealing government documents to be eligible for a life sentence in prison. She's leading a task force on a declassification of government records. Come up with a new bill called the Stopping High-Level Record Elimination and Destruction Act. Mandatory sentence of 20 years. Any government official or employee of the Department of Justice or anybody else in the intelligence community is found to have concealed, removed, or mutilated federal records. Former New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu, who previously ruled out running for Senate in 2026, says the door is not closed on a 2026 Senate run. Okay. The LGBTQ activists have turned on the Democrats. And Michigan, after Michigan voted to urge ban on trans athletes against girls. You can identify as a frog for all I care, but that doesn't make you a frog. And that's the case we're running in with the transgenders. They can identify as a 14-year-old girl, but that doesn't mean they are. Pentagon's called Mark Bartley corpulent and has kicked off a review of physical fitness and grooming standards in the military. Pentagon revoked Miley's security detail and clearance in late January. According to Pete Hegseth, U.S. military's high standards on body composition and other metrics eroded in recent. Snow White actor says he's disappointed in the world because it's Snow White actor Martin Kleba, who voices the character Grumpy, the dwarf in the live-action adaptation. The part of the problem is the female lead has been downplaying that film for quite some time. Fridays during Lent. Catholics are abstaining from meat on Fridays during Lent. Apparently have a pass when it comes to alligator. Well, let's see. Is anything else? A lot of folks activists have chosen to go after Tesla products and destroy them. Attorney General Pam Bondi has announced an investigation into Tesla vandalism. She threatens no-hold-barred criminal charges. Yeah, all illegal immigrants held in Guantanamo Bay are being sent back to the U.S. Interesting to find out why. Well, let's see. Whoopi Goldberg is one of those pushing the purchase of the Washington Post from Bezos so it can run leftist stories. Well, it's come out that Kamala Harris's campaign had some fairly absurd interview restrictions. One of her biggest issues was she was terrible with the media. You never knew what was going to happen whenever she opened her mouth, and that led to her own team trying to hide her and protect her. The podcaster man was Sean Ryan gave an interview with Forbes where he discussed some of her absurd requirements. Well, Trump was more than willing to talk to anybody about anything at any time, but not Kamala Harris. She didn't want to say anything to anybody, and when she did, it quite often came out as a word salad. Well, I think that pretty well took care of our news segment. You know, one of the things I research and write about and talk about, for that matter, has been UFOs. Well, you know, the federal government has downplayed the very idea since they first hit the news back in 1947. Well, now it seems the Pentagon's had a change of heart. Government reports revealed that the Department of Defense is finally taking UFO sightings seriously. So seriously, in fact, that in November 2024, a U.S. congressional committee held a hearing that stunned a lot of people. It directly and seriously addressed the extent of the Pentagon's investigation into unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAPs, which is what they're now calling UFOs. One of the most dramatic moments, Nancy Mace, the chair of the committee, asked former Defense Department official and UFO believer Luis Elizondo, has the government conducted secret UAP crash retrieval programs? Yes or no? And under oath, he said yes. He said, let me be clear, UFOs are real, UAPs are real. Advanced technology is not made by our government or any other government or monitoring system military installations around the globe. No longer are UFO sightings being swept under the rug or mocked by people in power. And as a result of some strange sightings by military pilots and other credible sources, the Department of Defense has spent tens of millions of dollars researching UFOs or UAPs or whatever you want to call them, as well as the witnesses. From whistleblowers to believers, they've been given public official public forums. But while government researchers confirm some UAPs appear to demonstrate advanced technology with unusual UAP movement patterns or flight characteristics, that doesn't mean these are ships from outer space. Having admitted that UFOs and UAPs are real, the Pentagon still insists no evidence any sighting of a UAP represented extraterrestrial technology, and they flatly still deny the government is covering up contact with extraterrestrials. But at least the Pentagon isn't calling witnesses cranks and hiding their reports anymore in a top-secret Project Blue Book type program. And the hearings and reports of the last few years have only kept the UFO movement alive. I mean, for example, if as one report released in 2023 asserts UAPs are not from outer space, then what are they? Spy planes from Russia? Weird environmental phenomena? Or maybe, just maybe, they might be from a galaxy far, far away. According to an interview in Wired magazine, the Pentagon's new UFO openness in its own way raises as many new questions as it answers. And that's certainly an interesting point of view. Okay. In 2017, stargazers peering through a telescope on top of a Maui volcano spotted a strange, fast-moving, cigar-shaped rocky object described as the first known object to enter our solar system from another star. It was named Oumuamua, the Hawaiian word for scout. It's a quarter-mile-long object immediately stirred speculation it was some kind of alien craft. Now, while a lot of the facts about this thing is a mystery, it's believed to be a comet that's wandered through the Milky Way galaxy unattached to any star system. Unlike the way our solar system planets and other celestial bodies are. The problem is, we may never know what it is. Well, for over 10 years, I spoke to people at Roswell until the folks who got in control of it decided I wasn't politically acceptable since I outsold the leaders in the UFO field. So the question has always been bandied around what really happened at Roswell. It's the most famous UFO report of all. It came out of Roswell, New Mexico, almost 80 years ago. It was July 1947. Residents of Roswell, New Mexico found an interesting headline in their local newspaper. RAAF, that's Roswell Army Airfield, captures a flying saucer on a ranch in the Roswell region. And quoting officials from Roswell Army Airfield, the newspaper reported that soldiers were scooping up strange metal sticks bundled in tape and foil and heavy glossy paper and chunks of plastic that a farmer said he found on his field outside of town. Well, this crash landing of a craft from outer space has gone down as the most famous UFO report in history. It's triggered decades of controversy, backpedaling, clarification, and finally, official admission. After that initial burst of provocative information and speculation, the Pentagon announced the debris was not a flying saucer at all, but a weather balloon with a reflective kite used for radar tracking. Now, for decades, this particular explanation stood without serious challenge until the 1970s, when UFO mania reached its peak and theories spread that the debris really did come from a spaceship, and in fact, alien bodies were recovered in a very hush-hush operation. A lot of ufologists screamed it was an official cover-up. Well, it wasn't until the 1990s that the government acknowledged that there was some validity to the cover-up claims. They admitted that the weather balloon story was bunk and still insisted, though, that the UFO reports were false. Instead, the government insisted the debris came from a high-altitude neoprene balloon used to spy on the Soviet Union in a top-secret program called Project Mogul. And for some, that mission fell flat. For recent years, the family of Jesse Marceau Jr., an Army intelligence officer in charge of the debris collections back in 1947, claimed that the officer was told by higher-ups to keep quiet about some of the stuff he found, including a small metal beam imprinted with what Marcel interpreted as purple hieroglyphics written by an alien race. And as for Roswell, the incidents established the desert town in the southeast corner of the state as ground zero for all things extraterrestrial. This reputation they sell to tourists and parlays into TV shows like Roswell and its reboot, Roswell, New Mexico. And on the 4th of July weekend every year, they have a UFO festival. As I say, I used to speak there. Well, I mentioned on this show not too long ago that Vicki Landrum and Betty Cash became violently ill after they spotted a bright object in the sky over Texas. Now, according to Vicki Landrum, it had to be a religious experience. That's the only way she knew to explain it. Driving down an isolated road near Dayton, Texas on the night of December 29, 1980, Landrum and her friend Betty Cash and Landrum's 7-year-old grandson Colby Landrum spotted what they thought were airplane lights hovering over the trees. They didn't give it much thought at the time, but they thought it was a jet landing at Houston Airport. But as the women drove further, the lights were revealed to be attached to a giant silver diamond-shaped object shooting flames that made the car's interior hot to the touch and irritated the women's eyes and skin. Well, being a born-again Christian, as she's made everybody immediately aware, Landrum told her grandson, "That's Jesus. He's not going to hurt us." Well, when the women spotted what looked like 23 helicopters resembling U.S. Army Chinooks giving chase, they decided what they were seeing was really a UFO. A belief reinforced when the women and the boys soon were visited by shadowy government officials urging them to keep quiet about what they had seen. According to Colby Landrum, I don't know who they were, whether they were government officials or what, but they'd come out and test us for radiation every so often. He said, "I was told to be careful because somebody'd scoop me up and take me away if I opened my mouth." Well, hours after the sighting, the women became violently ill with vomiting and diarrhea and a burning sensation all over, as well as blisters and a feeling of weakness. The Betty Cash was hospitalized for several weeks in January of 1981, suffered hair loss, and claimed the doctors treated her for radiation sickness. When she was later diagnosed with cancer, the women were convinced it was the UFO that got them sick, and the government was covering up what became known as the Cash Landrum incident. Well, they went to court suing the government for $20 million, but witnesses from the military denied any UFO was in the area, denied that helicopters had been dispatched. So, as is typical when you're dealing with a government cover-up, a federal judge dismissed the woman's case in 1986. Cash died in 1998 at the age of 69, 18 years to the day after a reported encounter, and Landrum died in 2007 at the age of 83. But as you might guess, according to Texas Monthly Magazine, the controversy continues. As was reported in Texas Monthly, to this day, there's no conclusive explanation of the night's events. You have to remember, the government is a firm believer in CYA. That's cover your nether regions. You don't want to admit anything. With friendly judges on the bench, you don't have to. Well, let's talk about another very well-known event in the UFO world. The incident at Rendlesham. It was a series of sightings of unexplained lights near a Royal Air Force base. It became known as Britain's Roswell. Well, according to the deputy commander at the RAF Woodbridge base in Suffolk, England, the animals at a nearby farm went into a frenzy after the lights were seen over Rendlesham Forest. The whole area lit up with multicolored lights at about 3 o'clock in the morning, December 26, 1980. Military personnel reported what looked like a metal object descending into the adjacent Rendlesham Forest, and then claimed to have found 3 impressions in the ground in a triangular pattern in a forest clearing, along with burn marks and broken branches from nearby trees. 2 nights later, witnesses saw a flashing light in the eastern sky and 3 star-like lights, one of them seemingly beaming down toward the ground. Well, as I said, this all became known as the Rendlesham incident, and it established the forest as the UK's version of Roswell, not least because the whole thing had been kept under wraps at the time. It was only a number of years later did the World News of the World newspaper run a story with the headline, UFO lands in Suffolk. And that's official. Well, skeptics suggest some other alternatives. They claim lights from nearby Oxford's lighthouse, or a meteor burning up over southern England, or default explanation, top secret American-led test of the Apollo Lunar Mission Command Module. There's always going to be somebody with an explanation that covers up what the government doesn't want you to know. Well, as long as I've been reading and writing and exploring, I've heard the term flying saucer. But did you ever hear who it was that gave birth to that term? It was aviator Kenneth Hudnall. Now, before Kenneth Hudnall, there was no such thing as flying saucers, at least not using that term. He was a private pilot in Washington State, flying near Mount Rainier, June 24, 1947. He reported he spotted 9 sparkling objects in a V formation he first thought were geese reflecting the sunlight. But as he flew closer, he saw they were airliner-sized metallic craft flying at nearly twice the speed of sound. In later newspaper interviews, Arnold described the craft as flat like a pie plan and saucer-shaped. And that, of course, spurred newspaper headline writers to come up with the phrases flying pie pans and flying saucers. The term flying saucers is still used to this day. Arnold first thought he'd seen experimental military aircraft, but officials denied any such planes were in the area. And that left the pilot with only one possible conclusion. He saw UFOs. He later told the Associated Press, everybody says I'm nuts, and I guess I'd say it too if somebody else reported these things. But I know what I saw, and I watched them closely. It seems impossible, but there it is. Well, you know, the fascinating thing about dealing with UFOs, not quite 50 years ago, I saw one. In fact, I and the platoon I was leading got in a gunfight with it. It ignored us completely. I'd been sent to eradicate a compound that was supposed to be at that particular set of grid coordinates. That's how the Army tells you where to go. They give you grid coordinates. Well, they gave me the wrong grid coordinates. I was supposed to be one hill over. So I got to the hill that I was first told to get to and saw the lights on the next hill. The country I was in, it was either up or down. It was very little flat ground. So we started for the second set of grid coordinates. And we went roaring up that hill. It was early in the morning. We were tired, sleepy. And we overran the location. And what was supposed to be a compound flew off. Well, I had a radio call from the headquarters, and had I accomplished my mission? And I said, well, it's gone. What do you mean it's gone? Not here anymore. Did you eradicate it? I say again, it's gone. So, I was told to report to the colonel when I got back. And he heard me out, and he said, you been drinking? I said, no. He said, there's no such things. I said, well, we saw it. We fired 2,500 rounds of ammunition at it. So he made a phone call, and he was the type of person who didn't listen. He talked. He told you how it was going to be. He told you what you had to believe. But in this conversation, he listened. Then he hung up, and he said, okay, that's all. I said, that's it? He said, yeah. I said, how about the 2,500 rounds of ammunition? How am I going to explain that? Inventory error. You sure? He said, yeah. If you want to remain an officer in this army, that's your position. I said, okie dokie. Well, let's talk about Hudson Valley UFOs. Not in the early 1980s, countless Hudson Valley residents claimed to have seen massive objects flying in formation over New York State. It's long been a hotbed of UFO sightings. Skies over Hudson Valley in New York from 1982 to 1984 lit up with what residents described as football field-sized objects flying in a V formation or sometimes in a circle. Over 5,000 people reported they saw the same thing, making the sighting dubbed the Westchester Boomerang one of the most famous mass UFO sightings in history. New York Times, no less, quoted the witnesses as saying the objects are absolutely noiseless, could shoot straight up into the sky and hover in the air for certain periods of time, and they glimmered in brilliant lights of white, red, or green. The Discover magazine got involved in it, and they looked into the matter and reported what people actually saw were likely not UFOs, but a group of Cessna 152 pilots practicing flying at night in tight formations with bright lights and only 6 inches between their wingtips. Now, I don't know about you, but that's got to be one of the dumbest explanations I've ever heard. Because that doesn't explain why, for decades after that mutual burst of sightings, people are still claiming to see strange things. According to the news organization Patch, New Yorkers filed 46 reports of UFOs in 2023, and 4 of them over the Hudson Valley. See, the problem is, our fearless leaders don't think we can handle the very concept of UFOs. Well, every year, people in Vinville, Oregon, 40 miles southwest of Portland, and they celebrate UFO Fest with music and games and a parade featuring kids and adults dressed up like their favorite Martians, all to commemorate a UFO sighting that produced some very famous pictures. It was May 11th, 1950. Farmer Evelyn Trent was feeding her caged rabbits when she looked up and saw a slow-flying metallic disc heading toward their spread near McVinville. Her husband, Paul, grabbed his Kodak camera and took some black and white images of the disc hovering in the distance. When the Pictures appeared in newspapers and Life magazine. The tramps became legends in the annals of ufology and the targets of an official investigation as the Air Force and the FBI searched their homes seeking evidence the pictures are part of a big hoax. The tramps who died in the 1990s long complained about being portrayed as opportunists or nutcases. Their daughter, Tammy Guchenauer, said, we were the alien family. They were ridiculed locally. That's all that was talked about was the alien family. They never made any money from their photos, though they did score a free trip to New York to appear on a TV show. Because what they described was unbelievable until the film was developed. And then the government turned backflips to try to make it all go away. Well, just days before the 1947 reports of a spaceship crash landing in Roswell, New Mexico, Harbor Patrolman Harold Dahl and his son Charles were on a boat with their dog. They were on Puget Sound in Washington State when Dahl spotted what he said were 6 donut-shaped craft flying overhead. About the time they passed over his boat, one of the objects seemed to plummet toward the ground and molten metallic shards rained down on Dahl's boat, hit him in the arm, and wounded the dog that later died. Next day, according to Dahl, a man in a black suit knocked on his door, brought him to a diner in Tacoma, Washington, and listened to his story and would not tell anybody about what had happened. This became known as the Maury Island Incident. It took place on June 21st, 1947. Now, this incident did in fact draw the attention of authorities, though allegedly not for the reasons that Dahl would claim. Government investigators believed it was a hoax and were considering filing charges before deciding that Dahl and his son had just concocted a harmless joke. See, that's the government's way of dealing with it. If they can't explain it away, they ridicule the witnesses. Because everybody's always willing to believe people and lie. Well, let's turn to somebody it's hard to discredit. Lonnie Zamora, police officer in New Mexico. He was on patrol near Socorro, New Mexico, the evening of April 24th, 1964. A police sergeant with the name of Lonnie Zamora got a call to investigate a possible accident involving a car that plunged into an arroyo when he saw something that looked like a balloon and then heard a roar. Well, he figured a shack storing dynamite had exploded because there's a number of them around. So he raced toward the noise, only to spot what he first thought was an overturned car. When he got closer, he saw an egg-shaped metallic object with landing gear sitting on the desert sand. And next to it stood 2 small people, either short adults or children in coveralls. Well, as he watched, flames shot out under the object and it sped away. He said, at first, after I got to my senses, I said, did I see it or didn't I? Well, when a New Mexico State Police sergeant arrived as backup, the 2 lawmen found marks on the ground and a patch of smoldering brush. U.S. Air Force Project Blue Book called it a Zamora incident the best documented case on record because of Zamora's position as a respected police officer. An Air Force investigation of the Socorro incident characterized the matter as unknown, although some say Zamora may have been the victim of a prank by students from nearby New Mexico Tech using a simple candle inside a balloon to pose as a UFO. Once again, the government's always handy with a way to ridicule the witnesses of something they don't want seen. Well, over 2 weeks in August and September of 1951, hundreds of people, including professors and students at what's now Texas Tech University, saw pale green lights silently dashing through the night sky near Lubbock, Texas. When one student even getting a photo of the lights in a V formation with a Kodak camera, the Lubbock lights incident attracted national publicity and spurred an official investigation by the Air Force. And of course, the geniuses at the Air Force came up with an immediate possible explanation. The glow was from the town's new mercury vapor streetlights. It was reflecting off the undersides of flocks of migrating plover birds. Well, one professor who witnessed the lights and said the objects are too large and flew too fast to be birds. And others suggested the witnesses saw the Air Force flying wing jet bomber, though that didn't explain why nobody heard any noise. As I say, somebody always has an explanation. Nothing to see here. Move along. Well, on that note, we come to the end of today's show. We'll be back tomorrow. Well, actually, this is Friday. We'll be talking about more UFOs and aliens and government cover-ups on Monday. Until then, this is Ken Hudnall for the Ken Hudnall Show saying have a truly great evening.